Multi-TC bases are designs that combine a single base out of several independent base parts, each with its own TC. While these bases are difficult to design and build, the approach allows to build very large structures while keeping the upkeep manageable. In this video, I present the largest base on my channel to date, the Mega Aggravator. It's an all-triangle multi-TC design that can easily house large clans. It consists of 6 externally upkept sections winding around a hexagon core with its own TC. Each of these sections has a private space for one of the sub-teams of the clan. It has 6 spread out main loot rooms that use the trapped drop-down design that I first showed in the Aggravator video. The base costs about 120k stone, 100k metal fragments and 1200 high qual to build. The upkeep is 2.5k frags and 88 high qual for the core, and 4k stone, 5k frags and 29 high qual for each of the 6 external bases, which sums up to about 25k stone, 32k frags and 262 high qual per day. Thanks to the multi-TC layout, you don't have to refill the TCs every few hours. The TCs of the external bases can easily be pushed to hold more than 2 days of upkeep. The core, if you leave the roof empty, can stay untouched for more than 5 days, though if you build a tower, like we did, this number is likely to shrink. As for the raid cost, with a build that complex, I don't dare to make definite statements. It takes 19 to 23 rockets to get any of the external TCs and 39 to reach the core. 24 rockets are required to rocket from the outside into any of the main loot rooms. Since with such a base you probably have someone online all the time anyway, an actual raid will have to be online and therefore suboptimal. I used very little high qual in this base, so once you get enough of it, there's tons of opportunities to make the base even stronger, such as upgrading the walls around the main loot rooms. This is an expert build. I strongly recommend to practice it on a build server first. And with a base that large, don't expect me to have gotten all the details perfect for your group. Be ready to think everything through for yourself and adapt it to your needs. And no, this is not a theoretical design. We actually built this base on Reddit large and maintained it for the whole wipe. What you're seeing is actual footage from the wipe. For the tour, we'll visit the version of this base that we built on Reddit large. You might notice a few differences compared to the subsequent build. This is because I applied all the lessons learned from this wipe to the build presented in the video. We enter the inner compound through a high external gate. This is one of the external flanking bases. The windows allow to check what is going on around the base and to fight raiders in and outside of the walls. This turret guards the inner part of the compound. We enter the main base through one of 6 airlocks. A ladder takes us to the 3rd floor. Here we have the private space of Team Red, which they used for beds and lockers. Down here we arrive to the 2nd floor, which is a community area. It contains a few chests and a turret that strategically covers the chute and the corridor. Down this chute we have one of the main loot rooms guarded by shotgun traps. This is the corridor that connects the base parts. We used it for the tier 3 workbench and other shared items. In general, you will notice that we color-coded the sections to provide orientation, as all 6 outer base parts use the same design. The corridor on the 3rd floor has public lockers with gear sets for raid defense. Up this ladder, we get onto the roof. These roof defenses provide good angles against threats near and far. Here we decided to build a large tower on top of the base core. It allowed us to overwatch the area, as well as to watch Rust's beautiful sunset. Ready for the build? Let's go. The most critical part of the build is to claim the area. When we built this base on Red at Large, we first assembled our team at the build site and started farming wood. First, let's verify that the terrain offers enough space for the base. Go to one of the future corners of the base and start building 10 squares towards the center. Add 2 triangles and then a hexagon. Add 2 more of those triangles on each side of the hexagon, then build out 10 squares from each of them. If the footprint fits, you're good to go. Choose one of the triangles of the hexagon and place the TC there. Here I protect it with a window frame and one single door. Please note that later during the game you will either have to protect the TCs with a ring of reinforced glass windows or with armored doors. If you don't anticipate getting armored doors in time, leave the door frames wood so you can hatchet them out and use windows instead. Next we place the 6 external TCs. Go to the 7th square and start destroying foundations from inside out. This will allow you to use the demolish function of the hammer. From each square, build 4 half moons back. Upgrade the triangle, pointing at the outer triangle of the hexagon. Now create the footprint of the core. 4 triangles on the inner row, the extra one to the left. This will become one of the main loot rooms. 6 triangles above that, again an extra triangle on the left for the honeycomb. 5 more triangles for the airlock. Here I upgrade them to wood so you see more easily which foundation belongs to the footprint. Now you will need to destroy a lot of foundations. Ask your team members to assist you so it will go as fast as possible. Once the excess twig has been removed, build out a double row of 6 squares followed by an arc of 3 triangles. Place the TC on the outer left triangle and enclose it with a window. Temporarily add a wooden single door frame in front of it so it cannot be shot out. Once you have done this 6 times, you have successfully claimed the build area. By now your team is probably bringing tons of loot and asking for storage. Upgrade the core to stone and surround it with walls. Only on this side have 2 wooden door frames. They need to remain wood as you will have to destroy them later. Use those triangles for furnaces, large boxes and even a level 1 workbench. When you close off the ceiling, leave this triangle opposite of the door leading to the TC wood, as you will have to destroy it later. With the workbench, you can now hopefully craft reinforced glass windows and upgrade the protection of the external TCs. The next step will be to create one of the external bases as starter unit. Complete the footprint by upgrading the 2x2 in front of the TC and adding triangles all around the outer side. Surround the bottom floor with walls as shown. Here, place a roof ramp to get onto the second floor. I'll leave the ceiling off for now, so you can more easily follow the build steps. Eventually, there should be 3 garage doors along the corridor. Use a ladder or a furnace in this triangle to be able to get onto the second floor. Inside of the corridor, we placed furnaces in those rear triangles, the workbench in this square, and boxes onto the floor. Let's close off the ceiling for the next build step. This triangle will be the chute. If you can, protect it with a shotgun trap. On the second floor, start with the door on top of the chute. Then surround the whole perimeter with windows, doorways and walls as shown. Use the second floor for your sleeping bags, as well as the research table and the repair bench. In case you find an auto turret, create a turret pod here. You can open the garage doors from inside and outside of the base. While you're locked off, I'd strongly recommend to keep them closed. Otherwise, nakeds with a bit of cloth and a few ladders will just strain them. It's so much fun to spawn into an offline raid, open those turret compartments up and watch them shut down the raid. Above the chute, we'll create the roof access. Use the roof however you see fit. On most of the external bases, we just created an airlock, but we also converted one of them into a minicopter hangar, and we used them for windmills and SAM sites. You now have a working starter base that allows you to continue the build from a protected spot. One by one, build up the remaining 5 external bases. Depending on the size of the team, turn more of them into the starter configuration or leave them empty for now. In our case, we assigned one base to each sub-team of the clan and let them design it in the way they wanted. Once you have a few auto turrets, the build site is quite well secured already. At this point, we had found and researched high external stone walls. This allowed us to start working on the compound to increase our security even further. You can secure the compound in multiple ways. My preferred approach is to place 3 walls from between the tip of the auto turret and the tip of the chute. This way, you got one window and the auto turret guarding the space close to the walls. However, this placement leaves very little margin for error. If you clip the outer walls too much into the external bases, there will be gaps between the walls. A more forgiving approach is to place 4 walls, going on from the windows to the turret. The advantage is that it's much easier to leave no gaps in the walls. The disadvantage is that this creates blind spots outside of the walls. Another approach is to include high external stone gates. They can come in very handy for boats or leaving the base in full force. Since gates are wider than walls, it's best to place them with one wall on each side. The walls have to be placed forming a little bulge. Know that you can change the orientation of the gate by pressing R. To see which way it is facing, hold the left Alt key and look up with the mouse. The barbed wire on top should point outwards. We had 4 sections of solid walls with 2 external gates, one facing the shore and one facing the ocean. To enter and exit the compound, you can now use these doors of the external bases as well. Add a roof ramp in front of them to get onto the second floor. Regarding the turrets, I would recommend to keep the outer garage doors closed unless you are attacked. Further, I would close the inner doors when you go offline. This can turn the turrets into a powerful counter-raiding tool if you come online in the middle of a raid. Further, please note that the September 2019 update will most likely change the way that turrets operate, so when you're watching this video, they might already operate differently. With the compound secured, we can add large furnaces to dramatically increase our smelting capacity. Place them on the left of the double row of square foundations and at least one square out from the main base footprint. Otherwise they will interfere with the battlements on the roof. Also, don't hesitate to put down an oil refinery in addition or instead of one of the large furnaces. At this point, I'd recommend to strengthen the core to make it costly to grieve the base under construction. Build a 2-door airlock on top of it. Clear out all objects from the inside. Hatchet out the wooden ceiling and the 2 wooden door frames. Place a ring of armored walls around the inner hexagon. Upgrade all foundations and all ceiling tiles to armored as well. Close off this triangle in front of the TC to increase its protection. Now you'll need a ladder to get out of the core. Head outside and upgrade everything else to sheet metal. On the second floor, fill in the floor tiles at half height, including the doorways. Place full walls inside and surrounding the hexagon. Close off the ceiling with armored floor tiles. Back in the core, decide whether to use armored doors or reinforced glass windows. We ended up using a ring of armored doors as it's more convenient. Finally, place a shotgun trap pointing at the chute behind the first door. This core is now 23 rockets to raid in the ideal case. Now that the core is more secure, let's also strengthen the external bases. The most important bit is to make sure that the triangle arc leading to the TC has 3 windows with reinforced glass windows. If you find armored doors, you can of course replace a window with a door. Second, every wall that you can reach from the inside of the base should be upgraded to sheet metal. The foundations, walls and ceilings around the TC should be armored. It now takes a minimum of 19 rockets to do any griefing to the build and 137 rockets to take over all of the 7 bases. With the external bases and the compound being built and covering your build site, it's time to turn towards building the main base. If you prefer, replace the 4 square foundations between the external and the main base with foundation steps. This will give you better mobility. Then upgrade all foundations connecting the external TCs with the main base to sheet metal. This includes the foundations inside of the external base. By the way, these foundations are extremely important for the base. If you have excess high qual, do not hesitate to upgrade them to armored. On the first floor, place sheet metal walls as shown. The inner layer is one of the main loot rooms. The second layer is the honeycomb. On the third layer, we will build the airlock. Here I used a design with 2 single doors and windows. Use the extra space for drop-off boxes. Your team will thank you for them. Close off the ceilings as shown. Make sure you leave those 2 triangles open. Build a chute entrance on top of the inner open triangle. Place a total of 5 wall frames at these spots. Each of them should eventually have a garage door. Surround the build with sheet metal walls. Make sure to close off the wall next to the inner exit. Close off the ceiling. But leave this triangle open for the chute connecting the second and the third floor. The third floor is a bit tricky, since a tiny bit of it sits on the neighboring base part. Thus I completed all the neighboring parts, so you can see how they interact. This chute leads down onto the second floor. This chute connects to the airlock. These gaps in the floor can serve as peek downs in case of a raid. Place 2 wall frames here to reduce the gaps facing outwards and upwards. Close off the ceiling apart from the triangle above the 2 doorways. Build a 2-door airlock on top as roof access. Next, let's match the height of the core with the height of the outer units. Place floor tiles all around it to create the inner corridor. Place wall frames onto the inner triangles to provide stability for the upper layers. Make the core of the third floor solid again, like the one on the second floor. Again, place sheet metal floor tiles and sheet metal wall frames to close it off and increase the core's stability. Next, let's do the placement of the most important items. We will start with the main loot rooms. 2 garage doors will secure them. Use triangles at half height for a shelf. First, place the box on the left Add 2 shotgun traps attached to the wall before adding the final 2 boxes. Another shotgun trap goes into this corner. You can of course fit more boxes on the floor, but I would hold off on that until you really need it, because it may limit mobility. On the second floor, place 3 triangles at half height into this corridor. Place an auto turret on the first one. This will guard the chute as well as large chunks of the corridor. For that reason, I recommend to leave this garage door open even if you lock off. Behind the turret, place 4 to 5 more boxes for less valuable loot. Further, protect the chute with a shotgun trap. Inside of the core of the second floor, we used to keep community items, such as the Tier 3 workbench, a research table, a repair bench, and a fridge with food. The spaces on the third floor should be private and left to the individual teams to design. We use them for beds and lockers. Be sure to lock the lockers, otherwise they can be looted through the cracks. 1 shotgun trap should go above the chute leading to the airlock. Another one can guard the roof entrance. Inside of the third floor core, we used to keep community lockers with gear sets for raid defense. This is my suggestion for the outer roof defenses. On the side with the cracks, place 2 roofs. On the long side, place 2 floor frames and an inverted roof onto the free spot. Close it off with a double door. On this triangle, add a door to cover the gap and a low wall half wall combination to the right. This second wall frame provides the necessary stability. These defenses provide a good mix of protection as well as long and short range engagement capabilities. As for the rest of the base, I leave it up to you. As you saw in the video, we built a huge tower on top of the core. We added windmills for SAM turrets and automated auto turret compartments. We added a second layer of high external walls to prevent easy ladder raiding. Shout out to Krim for the inspiration for building a huge all-triangle multi-TC base. Shout out to all the amazing people who joined the Evil Zerg in order to build this base on Reddit large. Fred, Old Fool, DT, Scooby-Doo, Dr. Citadel, Alexei, Whoops, Shoveler, Crack Shotty, Splinter, Captain Squarix, Conky, Hobbs, Jack, Whelp, Mal, Gal, Star, Fuzz, Goose, Squirrel, Super Noochcumber, Adrian, Sonny, Pingo, Abs, and everyone else I forgot. It was a privilege to see this monster of a base being built on vanilla. Take care, Evil Wurst, out.